going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today I would like to actually speak just from my heart and tell you a little bit in general of what I think about Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. I'm going to be telling you the things that in general I like about the game, why I love this game so much, and why I initially picked it to stream with, and why I've really continued for like a whole year really streaming this game, streaming this game. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of things I like about it. I'm going to tell you a little bit of maybe the things I don't like, a little bit of pointers, and really where I would like the game to go, you know, coming in the future. So the first thing I would like to say about this game is how, in general, and we're going to get some exceptions to later, but in general, the plants and the zombies and the heroes in general are balanced. Now, every single set, and when new cards come out, there's always some heroes that are going to be better. For example, right now, the Solar is very strong, and we're going to talk about them. The Mega Grow is always sort of strong. It's always been one of the strongest classes. The Mega Grow classes. On the zombie side, the Sneaky and the Brainy in the past have always been the strongest classes, and I believe they still also are. Would be all the Sneaky heroes and the Brainy heroes, particularly like Neptuna and you know, Brainstorm, and Super Brains also has become quite strong with Huge Giganticus as well. I really like the balance, though. It doesn't seem like there's that many things in the game that really cause lack of balance. Really, last season, in Season 1, I really did like the fact that the plants and the zombies were so evenly balanced. I mean, you had your really strong Captain Combustible and like Solar Flare and like Grass Knuckles decks on the one side, and these really strong Neptuna, Infinity, and Brainstorm on the other side. It was perfectly balanced. I really do like about that. One reason why I pick up games like this, the original trading card game I actually played when I was very young, I mean when I was probably like 9 years old, was Pokemon trading card games, which back then used to be a really good game. I really think that the insertion of EX cards into that game have really ruined it, because the whole game, instead of revolving around, you know, your strong cards and evolving, was a very essential part of the game. Now it's really just all about EX cards, who has better EX cards, and how you deal with them, and maybe super evolutions with the EX cards. But I really feel like Pokemon has really gone very much downhill in terms of the overall, you know, strategy, and the evolving was really cool. But anyway, that was Pokemon. That's how I started. I did play Harry Potter trading card games, which was less popular. It was also made by the same company that made the Pokemon games, the same distributor, which was Wizards, I believe. But anyway, I've played a little bit of Hearthstone before this. I was never like a really top-tier Hearthstone player. I really didn't have enough cards to be making the top-tier decks and stuff like that. But when I saw PvZ Heroes, right when I saw it and I started playing it a little bit, I knew that was really around the time that I wanted to start streaming. And I saw this game, I see it's made by PopCap, and I loved the original Plants vs. Zombies game. PvZ 2 was a little bit too much of a repeat of PvZ 1 for me to really enjoy, but the original Plants vs. Zombies, I just loved that game so much. So I knew that, you know, PopCap, a great studio, is behind it. EA is a pretty big company, so they would have the potential to really advertise and make the game into something big. I just really thought it would be something I would be good at too, and really enjoy playing for a very long time. As a streamer, you got to enjoy what you are playing, and you know, if you really want to keep it up, like we've been keeping up this game for a year. So anyway, there's so many the reason in general that I like trading card games is just because of how many possibilities there are even before you start playing. If you've ever watched my stream, you'll notice that there's really a lot of emphasis on deck building, on which deck we do. I really try to almost never repeat a deck unless there's something, you know, totally new, a different way we're going to play it. But usually I stream this every single day, and we almost never repeat a deck exactly the way it is, because sometimes you can make slight you know, adjustments even, and slight additions and subtractions to your decks in order to even repeat that deck in a whole new light. And we can really make decks from being okay decks to being amazing like that. But even without that, really, I haven't even been really repeating even the same type of deck, the same theme of deck, just because there's so many cards in trading card games. I mean, there are just so many cards. There are so many possibilities. I haven't done the math, but there's probably billions of possibilities if you count all the different combinations you can make in, you know, of a 40 card deck out of just hundreds of cards in the game. That's one thing I like, just so many possibilities, so creative. I feel like in terms of something when I stream, I really do enjoy playing this more than, let's say, other games that are a little bit less creative, because I can really like create new things, and that's just, I don't know, I really enjoy deck building a lot. It's like the highest level of strategy that there is. It happens to be the gameplay itself after you've built the decks, I think is also excellent. I think the game mechanics are amazing. I love how the lanes, they move from left to right. It takes some getting used to actually get used to the game mechanics. Like, let's say you have a strike through zombie against a strike through plant, and both heroes have 1 health. Which one's going to do it first? And you just get into a mode that kind of zombies always go first. If you have multiple abilities triggering, they always trigger from left to right. It sometimes gets really complicated, especially when you have like Mushroom Grotto and Pineclone on the field and stuff like that. I basically do have all the cards. Okay, so that again, I think that this game has so much potential. I think this game is better than Hearthstone in a lot of ways. Hearthstone is a massive game. This Plants vs. Zombies Heroes is a small game. One thing that is a little bit of a shame to me is the fact that the game did not get bigger than it actually is. I know there's no specific person to blame for this. Obviously, that is a huge financial decision on behalf of EA in order to how much to really advertise a game. The way games get big is by advertising them. I don't know. I haven't really seen a lot of Hearthstone advertisements recently. I don't know if they're still running, but I know throughout the years, Hearthstone has poured a lot of money into advertising their game. I think they still actually do pay like Apple Store and Google Play a lot just to have, when they make like a new update and stuff, have that sort of feature that the app will be like one of the first ones in new updates. If you actually go into the Play Store right now, the third app you see is Hearthstone, because they just made a new update, or they're planning on making one soon. So they really are pouring a lot of money into getting this game out, getting a lot of players. EA has not done that at all with Plants vs. Zombies. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a Plants vs. Zombies advertisement, maybe besides for the actual week it was released. I believe there actually was a certain amount invested into it, hyping it on the Google Play and Apple, the app stores, and maybe a little bit advertising besides for that. But a year has gone by and they're not investing anything into this game. Now, again, I can't say that I know what that involves. In order to advertise a game, it takes so much money. I mean, so much money to advertise a game. So I obviously know nothing about the statistics and how any of that sort of business world works. So I'm definitely gonna give EA the benefit of the doubt. PopCap makes the game, EA does the financial stuff. That's the general rule. So again, that's why I'm talking about EA right now. Definitely easy to give EA the benefit of the doubt that they didn't feel like Plants vs. Zombies Heroes is a good enough, investment to be pouring like millions of dollars, or whatever it is, hundreds of thousands of dollars at least, into advertising it. So it's a shame. I really thought this game would become bigger and better. It is a possibility that that Plants vs. Zombies Heroes really will become bigger and better in the future. At any point in time, the app is becoming more stable. There was a lot of glitches. It really depends on how their stats and how the game is performing, and if it's able to, if they're going to invest a lot of money into it, they're obviously going to expect a return. They're not going to put $1 million into advertising a game and not make that back. So something could change. There could be a swing, a turn of fates for Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. I really hope there is someday, and EA looks at it as an opportunity and really, puts the money into advertising and getting, establishing a really strong and really big player base. Right now, the player base we have is decent. It is a very small game still. I really do like the community that we have around this game. I think it's usually, for the most part, very smart people and very just cool people. It's not, this game doesn't attract a whole lot of trolls like in some of the games like, Call of Duty. I'm sure if you guys have played any of those, it really attracts a lot of very toxic crowd. This is more of a thinking man's game, which usually it's more intelligent and less just, crazy people playing this game, which is, it is a pleasure as a streamer to be streaming a game like that, something that there's slightly less craziness, but I definitely plan on keeping up Plants vs. Zombies Heroes until I see that it goes so low that no one's just interested in watching it anymore. The fact that there have been event cards released slowly but surely every week, I feel like really does keep an interest in the game. There's always a new card coming out. It happens to be right now there already is a lot of cards in the game. I really hope that as this game goes by, the cards actually become more and more available. Just to be able to welcome new players to the game. Not like when a new player welcomes, give them 5 free packs. It's not that. There has to be ways, maybe the packs becoming cheaper, maybe the packs having a higher, super rare and legendary drop rate. I feel like that, as the game goes by, as more cards are released, those statistics in terms of getting the expensive cards should definitely be more and more likely, I hope, in order to really be able to welcome new players to the game, that it won't be an impossible task after playing the game, free to play for a number of months to actually be able to get a very decent collection. One that really brings me right on to the next thing I want to talk about, which was the recent legendary and super rare upgrades, nerfs, buffs, whatever you want to call them, to certain cards. Just for example, looking at the Top Cat Lady, which isn't really an essential card in the game, became super rare, but there's a lot of examples of some of the really bread and butter basic cards in this game. Were recently turned from rare to super rare, from super rare to legendary. Here's like Juggernaut for an example of that. One of the biggest examples I would say is probably Pineclone, which used to be a super rare. Even though this is one of the best cards in the game, still is. This was turned into legendary and really makes these cards out of the grasp of free-to-play players. Games like this have to remain free-to-play on some level, and there should even be possible to make really top-tier decks on a free-to-play level. That's why I thought it was really nice, the fact that there was a card like Pineclone that was a super rare. To get 4,000 sparks to craft 4 Pineclones is really, if you play hard and you do all your missions and you buy packs efficiently for a few months, you'll be able to craft 4 Pineclones and make a really good deck. Now that Pineclone is legendary, you can buy 1 for the cost it used to be 4. I mean, just on the sneaky class too, I used to, free-to-play decks, they used to be like sneaky decks, were really great. You can make like great gravestone decks for free-to-play, but now again, Pogo, which was one of the bread and butter cards of that deck, has become super rare. And like the next card you add after Pogo was Mixed Up Gravedigger, and Mixed Up Gravedigger, instead of being super rare, is now legendary. The gravestone decks were so good, like free-to-play decks. If you watch my old videos, just type in Fry 'em Up free-to-play into YouTube, you'll be able to find a lot of, in the past, really, really solid free-to-play decks. Now there's a couple good free-to-play decks, and they're really, in the current meta, they're really not that strong. You can make like a Heal Wall Knight, which is sort of good. Obviously, you won't have Briar Roses in there if you're free to play, but you can sort of just do like the. I kind of like the fact that this card is rare on the solar side. You do have. I'll just show it to you really quickly. You have the Artichoke, which is, again, it's only a rare, and then you have the Environment Venus Flytrap Planet, which is actually an uncommon. And you can sort of make like a control deck and a heal-based deck, obviously without your Astroveras or your Walnut Bowlings or your Briar Roses, which obviously makes the deck way, way worse. So I guess that would be a pretty good free-to-play deck. I did put out, I think I did make a video with that. If not, I will in the near future. Pogo, yeah, it used to be uncommon. It went to rare, went to super rare. Anyway, the point is there's really not a whole lot of like really strong free-to-play decks. I guess Tempo Grass Knuckles you can also make free-to-play as long as you just have 4 copies of this little guy right here, Lily of the Valley. I feel like Lily of the Valley is the card. If anyone ever asks me what to craft, I always say first thing get 4 Lilies of the Valleys, because if you're a free-to-play player and you don't have a lot of cards, this card plus just some really basic, 1s and 2s, and 3s and 4s, and for Grass Knuckles or really all the Mega Grow heroes, you can really make pretty solid decks. Again, but some of these cards like Black IP used to be a really strong part of this deck list, and doesn't work anymore. I mean, I guess you can run Sweet Pea and Flaming Pea, and you can run some of the basic cards, but even the 3-drops, which you sort of used to add to Grass Knuckles, used to be Muscle Sprout was kind of the go-to. That used to be a super rare. It was something that people had a lot of, and now it's legendary. It's going to be really hard to be making, even like the really strong Tempo Grass Knuckles decks have become weakened a lot in the free-to-play realm just because of all these rarity changes. If I was EA or PopCap, who was ever in charge of making that decision, I would have announced, hey, we're changing the rarities, we're making a lot of the rares into super rares and the super rares into legendaries, and when you buy packs, it's going to be slightly more, at least slightly, something more likely to get super rares and legendaries in the packs. That way, it won't enrage the entire community. I mean, you should have seen the comments that were on the original Ginta video that announced the, in the dev server, these rarity changes. And when I made the video on it also, just look at the whole comment section and all the free-to-play players. They're all just like, look, we've been working so hard to build up our collection and like this, and we're trying to get these super rares, we're trying to get these legendaries, and all of a sudden these super rares that we thought we were really close to getting all of a sudden pop up to legendary. We're never gonna get them. How am I gonna get my basic cards like Pineclone and mixed up Gravedigger and stuff like that? And it really did frustrate a lot of players. I think that was really done without a lot of foresight. I know for a fact, just reading the comments from those two YouTube videos that I mentioned before, that it actually turned a lot of players out of the game. When that rarity thing happened, there was a lot of comments saying, I have quit the game now that those rarity changes happened, even though it was on, only just a few cards, but it was on a lot of the real essential bread and butter cards in this game, and they've just become out of reach. So like, what's the point in even trying to grind and save up for sparks and trying to get them anymore? So yeah, anyway, I feel like that could have been done smarter. I really hope that there will be more opportunities to get some of the basic cards in the game. It's really nice, by the way. I'm going to interject with something positive. I feel like the fact that the event cards are grindable with tickets, and they allow players, free-to-play players, to pretty easily obtain 4 copies of all these really strong event cards that are coming out. I think that is an amazing idea on a free-to-play perspective, because it really makes it that if you play and you're good, you're gonna get the cards and you're gonna succeed. So obviously a person who's been around since the beginning of event cards will have a very nice collection. You'll have your lilies, you'll have your imposters on the other side, and your defensive ends and everything like that. But again, players that are coming into the game now are faced with Lily of the Valley. It costs as much as a super rare. It's essentially just a super rare. It costs 1,000 sparks. That's really the only way to get it, is to craft it with 1,000 sparks now. So it's a nice balance between, again, there has to be some motivation for people to pay money to play the game. I have no problem with that at all. I don't think it's good if you just have a game like this that obviously a lot of money was invested into it and no one has any motivation to buy packs. You should be able, though, to be able to grind and play every single day, do all your quests at the end of the night, wake up in the morning and do the rest of your quests. That's definitely what I used to do before people donated a lot of cards and, I really have a whole collection now. Just be able to get all your gems and keep on buying those packs. There should be pretty obtainable after a few months to really get all of the basic cards in the game, which I feel like, now it would take... It would really be a very big stretch in order to get all the cards in the game, especially since Set 2 has come out and there's so many new super rares and legendaries and everything in this game. There is another point that I'm seeing in the chat right now. I think this is also a really good point, is that heroes, the actual heroes, used to be really, they used to come up in packs a lot. And as time has gone by, they have lowered the percentage of getting heroes in packs. And it's come to a point that, the chances of getting a hero in a regular, 10 multi-pack is so unlikely. And most, free-to-play players, they just have, a couple heroes on the plant side, a couple on the zombie side, and I feel like, again, it's another example of the same thing. The heroes should be a little bit easier to obtain. If a person is really putting in the time and grinding day after day, playing this game every single day, there should be a free-to-play way to really get all the cards in the game and not have to spend money in order to really get the full collection. If a person doesn't want to do that and doesn't want to put in all the effort and doing every single quest and stuff like that, those would be the people who will pay, and there's plenty of people who would be willing to do that. Anyway, next thing I want to talk about, Z-Mech. The next thing I want to talk about is Z-Mech. Poor old Z-Mech. Z-Mech is one of the, I think, iconic guys, the iconic characters in the Plants vs. Zombies franchise. Especially in Garden Warfare 2, he's definitely a fan favorite. Z-Mech has always, and I mean always, since the beginning of this game, been the worst hero. The absolute worst. I'm actually going to go into a Z-Mech, collection, just so we can see just the Z-Mech cards, just so I can explain. Now, Z-Mech actually, in recent months, has actually become a lot better. A lot better. I'll just go to this sports deck, which is probably the best Z-Mech deck. The reason he's gotten a lot better is, first of all, his powers. His powers used to be the absolute worst in the game. They gave him Electrobolt, and they also really severely upgraded his Missile Bandit, his signature power, to be really some of the best. The Lightning Bolt powers are really, on the zombie side, probably among the best ones in the game. I'd say besides for like Smash's superpower. Brute Strength and Rockwall have their stuff. I'd say Brute Strength is a little better. Rockwall is probably one of the worst ones, but I think he actually has pretty balanced, if anything, above average powers. Here's the problems with Z-Mech. Z-Mech does not have any hard removal, so playing control with Z-Mech is totally out of the question. He almost has no big removal either. I mean, we have like Bomb Imp, but anyone who knows anything about this game, it's almost impossible to really rely on Exploding Imp to actually remove something. There's so many Grave Busters, and there's so many ways that when you play this Gravestone, first of all, you have to wait till the turn after. You can't play during the trick stage, and you play this Gravestone in front of a plant. There's so many things they can do to make sure that the plant will survive anyway. He does have like Cake Explosion, but this does 4 damage. This does nothing against the Mega Grow class. He has no way of dealing with the Mega Grow class. I know there is some freaky deaky combo since they started doing the event cards. There is there is this combo. You can play Stupid Cupid and nerf something, and then if they don't grow that card anymore during their turn, then you can use Rolling Stone or Weed Spray. But to need a combination of 2 specific cards in order to use some hard removal, especially when one of those cards is Stupid Cupid, which is not a good card at all. You have to clog your own deck with cards like this just to have some hard removal. Z-Mech, that is the main problem with Z-Mech, is that he doesn't have those. It used to be his classes were actually weak, the Crazy and the Hardy class. I think the Crazy and Hardy classes are getting better, especially because of this card over here, the team mascot. The sports strategy has become good. If Z-Mech had some hard removal though, and this is, if there was one card I wanted to see added to the game right now, it would be some hard removal card, a hard removal card for the Hardy class, and it's not going to mess up any of the strong Hardy heroes like Rust Bolt or Neptuna, because they already have very, very good removal cards. Rust Bolt has Rocket Science, and Neptuna has Pogo, which are some of the best hard removal cards, and yes, Pogo is a removal card, absolutely is used like that in this game. If you have 4 Pogos and 4 Mix-Up Gravediggers, you do not need any more hard removal cards in your deck. Those are definitely enough, even in control decks. What the card I would like to see would be a 3-cost card. It would look something like Rocket Science. I actually got this idea a long time ago from one of the viewers. I don't remember who it is. I'm sorry I'm not quoting you. It would basically cost 3, and it would remove a plant with a certain amount of health or more. It would be very similar to Rocket Science, but it would concentrate on their health. It really does fit with the Hardy class that sort of is into, it deals well with high health and low attack creatures. As you see with Rolling Stone and Weed Spray and stuff like that. The card would basically say cost 3. It would remove a plant with 4 health, with 5 health, whatever the number would be, as long as it would be balanced. That would make Z-Mech into a thing. Then you can start playing control Z-Mech decks if you'd have just that, because he has really good early game removal. He has Plumber and Rolling Stone. He has Wrath. He has really chickening. Weed Spray has as much early game removal, and then you have enough hard removal in the end. Then you can start really making decks with Z-Mech like Ramp to the Garg Feast. Like if you had that, just having Gargologist and Garg Feast in the same class, even though Garg Feast is not that great of a card, that would open up that option. You can make, control decks where you finish them off with your Intergalactic Warlords and Binary Stars and stuff like that. Again, this sports Z-Mech deck is okay, but Z-Mech is still clearly the worst hero in the game, and I don't see any reason why the Hardy class should not get some hard removal card. It'd help the Smash too, which is also one of the weaker heroes in the game. Smash, I would say after Z-Mech, the Smash is probably the weakest hero in the game. On the highest level, of course, he's good for early, for lower level players, but on the highest level of the game, the Smash is close to useless. I would really like to, if people ask me all the time, what would be a card you add to the game, practically that is the one. I would love to see that. The other change I would like to see in terms of a specific card to this game that I would like to see is, of course, this card, the card that recently got buffed. It's Briar Rose. Briar Rose used to cost 6. I'll show you guys Briar Rose in case you're not familiar with what this card does. But yeah, if you've played this game at all in the last few weeks, you'll definitely be familiar because everyone runs this card. This has become legendary, of course. It costs 4, and when a zombie hurts a flower, destroy that zombie. You can play this together with all these little flowers like Morning Glory, like Solar Winds, which makes all these little sunflowers. The Briar Rose has become so freaking good. I mean, so amazing, to the point that it's almost single-handedly made Wall Knight one of the best heroes in the game. You can combine this with Poppin' Poppies. Poppin' Poppies is a 6-cost card that makes little buddies, which are little flowers just like all over the board, and it's just so powerful. I mean, you can watch any of my Wall Knight decks, any of my recent Solar decks. They all have 4 copies of Briar Rose in them. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I do like the fact it got buffed when it costed 6. Really, flower decks, last season flower decks were really like meh. They weren't really that good, especially because Briar Rose, which was one of the really strong flower synergy cards, cost 6. I think this card should cost 5. It'll still be one of the strongest cards in the game at 5 cost. You can still play Briar Rose at 5 and play Poppin' Poppies at 6. 4 is just way too cheap in my opinion. I heard a rumor from someone who does know what they're talking about that according to the official statisticians of this game, it happens to be that the healing decks with Wall Knight do not actually win often enough to really need them to be nerfed. Of course, the deck that we run, which allegedly is the most, according to what I've been doing, it's just so easy to win with this deck. In my opinion, this is the Heal Flower deck for Wall Knight. This or something exactly like it is one of the strongest decks in the game right now. Of course, it has all your flowers, has Solar Winds, Briar Rose. I don't know why I only have 3 copies of Solar Winds in this version. I forget why I did that, but you're running then Artichoke, which is also a flower, and Poppin' Poppies. Poppin' Poppies, now the little poppies. Besides for making flowers all over the board for the Briar Rose, the little buddies heal you, which I don't think was necessary to do. And of course, you have your Astroveras, your Walnut Bowlings, and this is almost impossible to kill Wall Knight. And there might even be ways we could even make this deck better by putting in cards like Bodyguard and stuff like that. I think this actual version, even though people that are just running the basic heal, I would really like to hear what the stats are, even though people are using a deck like with just Artichoke and Venus Flytrap Planet really doesn't win all that much. But when you're combining it with the whole flower strategy and all the Solar Winds and the Poppin' Poppies and the Briar Rose and the Astroveras, and you really have the decks with really smart control cards like Gravebuster and with Galactic Cactus in the early game, I'm really wondering what the win rate of this deck is. It seems ridiculous. I'm almost tempted to play this deck until I lose twice, and I believe this is a very good candidate for in today's meta to go 32-0. I would not be surprised if this deck went 100-0. Seriously, I'm tempted to try it. I might even set up a stream where I'm playing 2 games at a time, and I'll do it like a several times. I'll do a stream like that and we'll see how many games we can basically rack up until we lose, let's say, twice. And I wouldn't be surprised if we could win 100 games before we would lose twice with this deck. I think if Briar Rose became a little more expensive, there's a couple other changes too. Poppin' Poppies, I don't think the Poppies need to heal now that Briar Rose became so much stronger at 4. Even if it was 5, I think Poppin' Poppies will be a good enough card that the little poppies do not have to heal for 2 each. Even if the little buddies may be healed for 1 each, I think that would be a little more balanced. I do think Poppin' Poppies is a little broken. Again, Astrovera also, it does not need to heal that much. It heals for 10. If it healed for 8, it would still be an amazing card, especially with the Artichoke. Another thing about the Artichoke Venus Flytrap Planet, I did hear that in the dev server they were speculating a little bit to make this combo not work. I don't remember exactly the text they would change, but it would prevent that from looping the way that it does if you have a Artichoke and a Venus Flytrap. Anyway, H-Coins was a thing of the past. I can't have a strong opinion about H-Coins because I really got all my cards from H-Coins way before this game was released. There was actually a way they used to give out with like early in this game. They actually used to give you like free cards basically every time you won any match, even like single player. They used to give you just one random card, and if it was against the boss, they would give you an uncommon. I really got all of my basic cards, like H-Coin cards, very early. I do remember getting, when I played in my free-to-play account, the H-Coins really were good at getting your basic cards in this game. They did actually make, it used to be you only got 3 cards per pack. They did make that you get 6 cards per pack, so that was actually, I really think that was actually good. I'm really gonna develop an opinion on this now that I think about it. The fact that the H-Coins were removed from the game, I think really was made up by the fact that they put 6 cards in every pack. The packs used to have 3 cards. and they put 6 now. And if you're really grinding, every single day you're doing all of your quests, all of your missions, and you're trying to save up all those gems, and you buy just even 10 multi-packs of 10 cards. I really think that it's very obtainable. It's very possible to get all of the basic cards and the basic cards and the uncommons in this game, because you really get at least 5, let's say, per pack. You can really get those pretty efficiently, and they're really cheap to craft also. With just a few sparks, you can really craft all the basic and the commons. So I think that was a good trade-off. Get rid of a superfluous part of the game, the H coins, and just give people more cards. I would like to see that sort of thing implemented, though, when it comes to the super rares and the legendaries that are constantly being added, as expensive cards to this game. 5,000 multi-packs and 2,000 gem multi-packs used to be good to buy. It happens to be, I think, if you actually buy a bunch of 10 multi-packs, it actually is more efficient than spending your money on buying the 5,000 multi-packs. Someone actually made the calculation, and they had a little experience with this too, that buying gems and spending it on 10 11 card multi-packs is better than spending real money, that same money, and buying the 60. So I'm not really that upset. I think if the 10 multi-packs are good enough to be able to, again, if you're grinding for months and months to be able to get all the cards, I think that's good enough. You don't really need the fact that the 2,000, the 50 packs and the 30 packs or whatever they were, the 60 packs, are obtainable by gems instead of real money. I think that's okay, and I think the game really has the right to make, like, the people want to spend, so they'll spend big, so they'll pay $60. I think that's normal. I think that's okay. I don't really have any complaints about that. Okay, there's one thing I would like to talk about before we leave here, and that is strategy decks. To be honest, I haven't even looked at a lot of the strategy decks yet, but I'm just going to start opening them at random. I mean, I just opened up a random strategy deck. This is for Wall Knight. This is the best hero in the game. And this is not, again, this deck has some very good points to it, and it has some very, very bad points to it. Having, let's say, for example, Pecanolith and Walnut and Mirror Nut all in the same deck. If you're playing against, this is not going to win consistently, because if you're playing against a hardy opponent, they're going to weed spray you to the Ice Age. There's just a lot of these strategy decks were apparently made by people who don't really know how to play this game, do not really know how to build the best decks. I feel like they could have even gone to the streamers. Even besides for myself, there are other people who really do post very, very good decks. Tryhard is one example of someone who's made just amazing decks. They actually did take a couple of Tryhard's decks in the past, like OTK Valk, and did sort of add basically a version of that into the strategy decks. These things just seem to be really, really ill-informed. Seems to just be a bunch of cards just kind of stuck together. Again, this deck looks decent, but really, if you know a lot about this game, running Dr. Pepper in a healing deck is really not a great idea. Running why are there walnuts in this deck? Why would there be walnuts in a deck like this? So you can stick it in front of your Heart Choke, and then what? A lot of these decks, notoriously, anyone who knows how to play the game, they're not good. I don't know why they didn't just get some. I mean, there's people in PopCap who are really good at this game and know what the good decks are. Why not just feature all of the good decks in these strategy decks, like some really, even if they're not the best decks, but like some really, really solid strategy decks. I feel like the strategy decks, they could have, with a very little bit of effort, really could have made these solid, really could have given players like a really clear sense of what the good decks are. And the times I mostly experience the strategy decks is while I'm playing the daily challenges. They're always giving you giving you a daily, a daily challenge. Just for example, the highest ranked strategy deck for Brainstorm, it seems like this is like the big one here, is Dancing Among the Stars. This is like the new one they gave. This deck is so bad. This deck is just, we played this in the daily challenge just this week. This was such a bad deck. It's a dancing strategy. This has nothing going to it. It has one rocket science, which is just the blunder of the century. It's really, this deck needs a lot of work. You're running the binary stars. You only have 2 plumbers in the deck. There's really a lot. There's one environment in the whole deck. It's just so many problems with this deck, for example. And there are so many good things for Brainstorm. There's no need to make dancing. If you want to make dancing strategy, I guess that for a dancing deck, I guess it's okay. Okay, what about the ads? what about the ads? What about the ads? This is the thing. Used to be you click on an ad, that number you can see right over there is 5. That used to be 10. That annoyed a lot of people because I'll tell you how the ad works. Ad works basically, I don't know if EA does their own ads. I haven't really watched these ads in a while. Sometimes as you watch them, you can tell who's doing it. I think they actually work with Tapjoy. Basically, any companies, mostly let's say games, they want to advertise their game to get people to come to their game and spend money on their game. That's how they invest. So they'll go to a company, either a company that has a lot of games and a lot of ad revenue, who does it themselves, or someone who actually works with a lot of games like Tapjoy, and they basically, they pay them for a certain number of ads, and then they go and Tapjoy, let's say, will go then and contact all of the little games like this, like Plants vs. Zombies Heroes, and say, hey, if you want to have a way of, giving a little in-game currency, some gems for watching an ad, we'll pay you, a certain percentage of the ad. We'll keep a little bit, you keep a little bit, let's make a deal. It used to be you get 10 gems per ad, now you get 5. So again, this is another thing that has made it harder for free-to-play players, and this is they're actually paying money. EA gets money every single time you watch an ad. And they're not losing anything from these gems. The idea is maybe they'll be losing because maybe if you can't, do free with gems, then you'll spend more money on the game. You think they're really going to get more money at the end of the day by making this 5 instead of 10? You think they're actually going to make more money on in-app purchases? And maybe they do. Maybe they're making 10 times more money because no one's grinding ads anymore, so people are playing it. It just seems like this is the kind of thing that, again, would turn away players from the game. You used to be able to get 10, and they think everyone's just going to forget it after a while, but, I mean, it's been this way for, like, months now, and apparently our chat over here in the channel apparently has not forgotten. This at least is a way to again, for free-to-play players, actually give EA money by grinding in this game. You can grind ads, but now grinding an ad for 5 gems, it seems like that's really frustrating a lot of players. I'm almost positive that there's a lot less ads being watched, not more, because of the system. Tell me if I'm wrong, please. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. I really don't communicate with PopCap very much. It's part of EA's policy that there's really no one in the company who's able to communicate with people from outside except for one guy, which, again, I communicate with him a little bit. He does not have that much time for me, though. Anyway, guys, that's the end of my rant 1.0 for Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. Again, I do like this game. I do plan on streaming this game long term. I am branching out into other types of videos and other games just because I really don't see at this point this game really lasting for more than another year maximum, unless something seriously changes in this game. The numbers have just been going down, especially recently, a month after Set 2 was released. Maybe every single time they'll do a new set, more people will come to the game, but again, that's only going to last as long as they're able to make the cards in the new set easily obtainable by the new players. And even if it's not going to be all of the cards being obtainable, but just that there should be very solid, very competitive free-to-play decks that are, let's say, almost as good as the pay-to-win decks. I think that, we've had that in the past, and that really is the recipe. That's probably the main recipe that needs to be done in the future, that you can make really strong competitive decks free to play without all the super rares and the legendaries in it. Anyway, guys, I hope that you enjoyed. This is Fry. Until next time, peace. See you later.